Hey everyone, it's really cool to see user tracking coming along to the point where user actions, right? We were talking about engagement score. We can save that information now. But one other thing we can do is export the data, and that way we can see all of the actions by each of the people directly speaking. So if I were to do that, let's see, and put it, let's put it somewhere. All right, fine, here. Boom. And then when I open it, there we go. I can see everything about the action. I can see who was involved by IP address. I can see what section they were in and what action they took with the section. Like the pop-up modal. What did the guy do with it? He closed it. Okay. If I wanted to sort by this thing, I could sort by it. And then that way I could actually see how often people are closing it as opposed to clicking something inside of it. If most people are closing it, then it's not doing its job very well. If most people are clicking something inside of it, it's doing its job very well. Okay, so that is cool. So we can see the date, we can see the action they took, we can see the section name, who they are. Eventually, we're going to match this stuff since we're capturing data for the information, for the IP addresses. We're going to be able to put more in here. First name, last name, and other stuff. Whatever we're capturing about the people. Address, phone, email, city, state, zip, age, marriage, all that kind of normal thing. Most people don't have a use for a lot of that data other than understanding who came to your website. Have you ever heard somebody tell you in a video that you need to get to know your demographics? You know, who is buying from you, right? Because that way you have an idea who you're targeting for. Who's the most receptive to your message? Younger folks? Older folks? What race? Ethnicity? What else? Are they married? Are they in their 50s or 40s or 30s or 20s? Are they higher income folks or lower income folks or middle income folks? There are markers for all of these things. And so the more you can just take down basic information about people, are they college educated or high school grads, or somewhere in the middle? Anything like that helps you understand who you reach out to, who you should reach out to, how you should write your messages better. And so all of this kind of thing is all monitoring stuff that we get to learn from. So if in the tracking we were saying that you add alternatives, because of course you can do that, you can go to all actions. And if you were to say, okay, let me take the index page of agency, okay, and I said, I want them to hit the submit button, okay? And I want to know that at least, 3 people or 3% of the people who are coming are doing that. I'm going to make it a high priority so it gets tracked as an engagement. So the engagement score gets affected. Now, what happens if people aren't really hitting that? Then what we should do is try out different headings with subheadings with button text. Well, how am I going to write it? Hey, drop everything and do this. Or, hey, if you join now, get 10% off your coupon. Am I writing to a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old who is male or female, white, black, Asian, Indian, what? Somebody who's married, not married, somebody who's a high school grad, somebody who's a college grad. All those little bits of information help me decide what kind of alternatives I want to put into the system to try out, right? What if I'm doing okay, but then I want to try to raise the point by increasing the punch? Well, if you sell on emotion, often you're selling to a younger crowd or a crowd who's high school grad. If you sell on logic, you're selling to an older crowd or a crowd who's more educated. Not to say that that's an absolute rule, but when you talk about law of large numbers, that is how you increase sales. You aim for the right group with the right message. So the more you can get either side of that to match with the other side, the more you can get both sides of those coins to belong together, to fit together, by far the more money you make. So having this information just makes it easier for you to be able to do that. You want to make money with your website will make you quite a bit. But if you dial in details, you can make a whole lot more yet, right? And if you add the maybes, the guys who did not reach out to you, they did not buy, but you don't just want to let them go. How many of you know that the retargeted group, the group you reach back out to who's familiar with you because they saw you at least once, they're the guys to go after next. For every one buyer that you had out of 100 people, say you had one buyer, I don't care. Out of 25 people, you had one buyer. Or 50 people, you had one buyer. Something like that. Out of every stack of people, you had a buyer. For every buyer, you had 10 ammo spots. Well, let's say 5 ammo spots. And beyond that, like another 10, considering it. On the fence, looking at it, thinking I might buy that. I'm 50-50 on it. Okay? So that's 15 times as many people as the people who bought. So the first group of people you go after, the ones who actually finally buy on their own with no work on your part, no thought on your part, no re-engagement on your part. But out of that, you can get as many as 15 times more people back and probably get triple the sales, quadruple the sales, 7 times the sales maybe, if you work on that group of maybes, okay? And how do you do that? Newsletter drips, trying different offer angles, to bring them back and offer them a better pitch, to bring them back and offer them a new idea, to bring them to your payment page. It's got the deduction for this week only. Who knows? I mean, there are all these things, right? But the fact of the matter is we're trying to increase the reactions of people. We're trying to get more and more people to buy, and therefore more and more people to almost buy right behind them so that we can go retargeting these guys right away, okay? And all of this makes your websites better so Google loves them more so they rise higher in rank. And all of that drives more traffic in the first place so you can keep improving on the stack of people faster and faster, better and better. And if you find that, wow, man, more and more people are coming to my site, make it more of an authority site. Write some more pages that are interesting. I used to explain it in terms of when you write a recipe. Everyone can write the same recipe, how to make a loaf of French bread. But how do you make your recipe more important than the other guy's recipe in Google's eyes? You talk more about the details. What kind of a flour do you use? How enriched is it? Or is it white? Or is it wheat? What are the alternative flours that you could use and what makes them great? That's different pages, right? You could have a list of the alternatives and a hyperlink on each one that goes to the different kinds of breads, whether it's sourdough or some kind of a gluten-free substitute and so on. And then you can talk about the waters, whether you're using water out of a tap or filtered water or seltzer water or mineral water or who knows. You can write about those. You can write about alternative dairies when that comes into play, whether it's milk or soy milk or almond milk or coconut milk or oat milk. There are so many kinds, right? And they all have their values. They all have their advantages and their disadvantages. And even those come to whole pages about the disadvantage of oat has to do with A, B, and C, taste and this and that, or the advantage of oat is taste and this and that. Literally, you can get detail, right? Now, what Google wants to know is who the authorities are on the topics. Those are the guys who create independent pages about all of these things. And what happens is your competitors see you're doing it, so they're trying to do it too. So what you need to do is do even more of it than them. But that can't go on forever. And that's why the other elements of the entire project come into play. Not only are we making more content, but that's not enough, right? We also have to measure how well and how reactive people are to the content. And we have to see who's reading the content. How many of these guys were reading the content or closing the option to read the content or just not going to the page, right? How many of the guys on the page are reacting? What if you had a sign up form on every possible page? And then who's signing up from what page? And what kind of demographic are they? Right? All that kind of thing comes in. What if you find all your gluten-free guys are all your signups are coming from your gluten-free page, the one you did about the one thing. And you think, wow, I didn't realize it, but I've got a huge following of people who either have celiac disease or they just want to eat healthier by cutting gluten out of their diet more. You know what? I should create more content for those gluten-free people and other similar gluten-free people. What page did they sign up from? Oh, the bread. Okay, I'm going to create more topics about gluten-free pizza, gluten-free spaghetti, gluten-free lasagna, gluten-free everything, right? And so then you're going to see even more signups. Right? You're going to make more sales, right? You're going to have a whole market based on this, another whole market based on that. The fun part is you don't have to know anything about any of the topics anymore. Use the AI writers. They know everything about the topics. And then use them to create cool art, gluten-free table laid out for spaghetti, dinner. And it can show the table with all the fixings with spaghetti plates and everything in the huge spaghetti bowl. Use your AI art to create these things, whether it's abstract or photographic. I mean, you can make this stuff look very, very real. And so you can generate tons of pages for all these different kinds of contents so that Google sees that, wow, you're an authority on these topics, right? And you're growing with your market because you're tracking them. But in the meantime, your website is tracking. So your website is making those logical adjustments that you allow it to make to try to hit the goals that you set. And it's showing you who's engaging on everything you set as a high priority. Can you believe it? This is probably the most efficient way to do the largest monitoring and adjustments and writing projects without having to hire the copywriters, without having to hire the website monitors to review and report, and without having to hire the programmers who take the reports from the monitors to figure out how to reprogram the site to make it a little better and change things. Now, you just go in and put your alternatives and let your website do it for you. And your website will watch scrolls and adjust sections and decide when to throw sections off if they're interfering, page by page. That's really, really awesome. All right. And so just to say, how do you get all that power in one place? Because I don't know any other place where you can do it. I don't know any websites that are that competitive anywhere else except for ours under new releases. When you come here, go to new releases, select anything, and it doesn't matter what it's displaying. Because we teach you through the video topics very quickly how to replace the images, how to refill out the pages with stuff you want, how to use the writer to write that stuff for you, and the image generators to generate the images, and how to put the images where you want. There's very little you have to know how to do. Technically, you don't really need to know anything technical, just follow along with the videos. The admin panel's common sense is very easy to use once you get used to it. And it doesn't take any time to get used to it. Use anything once or twice and you're almost an expert. It's very simple. And so when you go in there and you start making changes and doing these things, you're going to be amazed how easily and how fast you can build extraordinary websites, and you can set the goals in the tracking and attach like MailChimp, a newsletter that's free for the first 500 contacts. That'll shoot off a day zero offer of some kind, like get 10% off in your next purchase. So whether somebody did make a purchase or not, your newsletter is offering, hey, come back, get 10% off your next purchase. That kind of thing. So there are a lot of ways to make yourself a lot of money very quickly, very well, by simply creating quality websites, okay? The only other thing that you'll consider doing after you make your website the way you want is getting the super affiliate sites package so you can get backlinks coming into your site from elsewhere, because that makes your websites stronger still. That means other websites are voting for your website. Google loves to see that. So we set that up, and we make that happen. Okay, very cheap. So we're getting these up and going really, really cheap for the power you get. When you add up what the cost would normally be to have a quality AI writer yourself, when you add up, for the amount of content that you want to create, the cost of the images that you would normally have to go and generate, even if you're generating them, if you add up the monitoring, the cost of normal monitoring by the month, if you add up the normal cost of programming adjustments by the month to act on the monitoring, by the time you add up all those costs, very typically you're going to have at least $850 a month that you would be paying for all of it, the hosting, the domain, everything that makes that possible. But you're paying a fraction of that price through here. That's what's beautiful. Your websites can outcompete with the guys who are spending significantly more money than you, but you can outcompete them very easily simply because you know that these websites exist and they don't. All right, looking forward to seeing you here at website-installer.com under the new releases. And yeah, can't wait to get your project on a roll. Take care.